First of all, I've seen most of Maharani and you are absolutely amazing in it. I know it's starting to stream from tomorrow. So I've just got to say congratulations on your performance. I really loved watching it. I've got to ask you, my first question has to be, what personally drew you to this character of Rani Pardi?
Wow. What personally drew me? Well, I heard the narration last year. We had just started our lockdown, our first lockdown. And, it was one of my first Zoom narrations. So we didn't know what Zoom narrations were before that. Everything was in person. And I heard the script and I absolutely fell in love with this character, her journey, her coming of age, in a sort of strange sort of a way. And, we often as women complain that we don't get very well-rounded, well-etched out characters. I didn't have that complaint with Rani Bharti. I think she has such a beautiful journey. And for me, one always says that, oh, if I was the president or prime minister or chief minister, I would do things differently. It's almost like a common man's dream. And she gets to live it, although she is not like really wanting to do it. So she's sort of unwittingly thrown into this world by her husband, and how she navigates her way through and has an innocence about it. She's suddenly doesn't not wake up one day and is Miss Know-It-All. She fumbles her way around in the dark till she becomes who she does, and she fights all the ideas of patriarchy that surround her and stop her from expressing herself. So yeah, her innocence, her strength, how she's so I guess has a lot of agency despite where she comes from. She's not afraid to speak her mind. And that's what really drew me to her.
Okay, I've got to ask you, you've mentioned it in your answer, that from the first scene, she has a kind of a strength, maybe not in the way that was needed for the chief minister, but she has a strength when it comes in. And it's only until the end of the first episode we realize where the story might be going. So in a way, it's a very traditional kind of space that you've kind of played this character in. Did you find any parallels to your own personality and Rani Bharti?
Wow, none at all. I've been fairly fortunate, and I'm quite aware of the privilege that I've been born in. I was born in Delhi. It's the capital of India. I live in Mumbai. I work here. I travel when COVID permits. I read. I had the good fortune that my parents sent me to school and I had an education. Rani Bharti and none of these things. She's never left her village. She was married pretty early on. She takes care of her family. She never went to school, never read a book in her life. She's never even gone to Patna, forget anywhere else. So she's quite limited in terms of where she comes from. But at the same time, we always confuse being educated with being intelligent. And she has a certain native wisdom about her, almost like a practical knowledge that in the villages people apply to sort of go through their lives, and she applies that to her understanding of the world. For me, it's in the trailer as well. A very important line she says, "Itne mardana sarkar ka mukhyamantri ab humko kahe bana diye," which basically means that why have you made me the chief minister of such a male government? And she says it very matter of fact, because she as a woman walking into that room feels uncomfortable amongst men. But she's making such a larger point unknowingly about representation of women in the government, in the assembly. And I feel like this is the true sort of hallmark of her being her, where she just speaks her mind. And if you really look at it in the larger context, it means so much more than what she's just saying on a personal level. And that innocence, that sort of being in touch with who she is, her authentic self, and being unafraid to express that no matter where she is, that I think, in fact, I think I've learned that from playing Rani Bharti. As actors, sometimes we put a part of ourselves in characters, but sometimes while saying some lines or trying to understand the psyche of a character, you become that. So I think just being authentic, no matter what the situation you're in, that is something I think I've learned from Rani.
That's really interesting, because my next question to you was, did you find any particular scenes or any parts of the story or any of her characteristics particularly challenging to take on board yourself?
So many. Her language, there's so many words that I can say pretty well, even in Hindi, the z's and the g's and the, you know, and she, because she comes from a certain village and she speaks a certain way, she is not able to say them as fluently. Like like the word is mishraji, like the sh, like mishraji, but she can't say it. She can't say the sh, so she goes like misraji, you know. And that's something you have to be so aware of constantly. It's almost like my tongue was in a twist all the time, trying to say things how she would say it. So that was like an everyday battle. And I remember Subhash Kapoor, our showrunner. I mean, I'm very close to him, and you know, he's also directed Jolly LLB, and that's, I've been working with him since then, and he's fantastic. So he would always make fun of him, blah, 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 like he would just suddenly on the mic go like blah, 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 and there comes Huma again, and I was like, okay, wait, give me a second, like I'm gonna get this right. So that was a constant thing. And then of course, so many times, you know, you slip in and out of character, and you have to constantly bring yourself back. Language was one big thing. Also, actors sometimes have issues like portraying characters that know less than themselves. Like if I know something, you know, and there's a way I talk about it, shows in my eyes and my language, in my body language. But how do you switch that off? How do you suddenly be like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, you know, and do that authentically and do that like in a real sense, as opposed to showing you that I don't know something. And that for me was a very big challenge.
So I have to ask you actually, because this series is supposed to be inspired by true events, obviously Lalu Prasad Yadav and his wife. But okay, that's what I heard. Okay, maybe not. Thank you for clarifying. But I just wanted to ask you actually that basically, do you think roles like this, if women take roles like this, do you think they're important in the grand scheme of things? Because as you said, obviously women kind of look for roles where kind of they want to stand out, and this is particularly not just because of her gender, but because of the way she approaches politics. She stands out. Do you think it's important for women to take roles like that, even in this day and age?
Absolutely. I mean, firstly, this is not Rabdi Devi. It's not inspired by her or whatever. I mean, Rani Bharti and Rabdi Devi just are both female chief ministers, and they just happen to be from Bihar. But there is no like reference to her in the series at all, to her real life or the episodes in her life. So that would be like an unfair comparison and a misleading comparison. Having said that, so what was the second question you asked?
Do you think it's important for women to take such roles where they stand out?
Absolutely. I think it's so important. Like, I mean, I've always said this before, that, you know, the stories that we say and how we choose to say them are often like colored with a certain lens. Even the way we look at women bodies, it's often about the male gaze as opposed to just being you. And I think it's important to sometimes realign things a little bit. I really enjoy you know, playing interesting characters, which could be good or bad, right or wrong, does not matter, but they're more well rounded off, and they don't look at women in certain stereotypes or put them in boxes. That for me is really important. So yeah, I mean, it's really important to have more characters, not just for myself, but whenever I see another performance of another you know, co-actor who's doing similar work, I feel very proud, and I feel that's incredible, because they're really changing the narrative and they're really changing the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about changing the game, just want to talk slightly about your digital career. You've obviously gone from Layla, which I absolutely loved, and I'm waiting for a second season, to this. And so I wanted to ask you, are you finding that there is more scope for female characters in Indian kind of digital content?
I think so. I think there's more space for Indian characters in any space, digital, theatrical, literature, pop culture, whatever you want to call it. I mean, yeah, for sure. We make for more than, or at least 50% of the you know, human population, and we're quite. Research has shown that we're linguistically far more adept than men are. So, and there are many other things that we were better at. So why is it that representation, and I'm being cheeky when I say this, so why is it that when that representation is not evident in our films, in our stories? You know, often, like, I mean, I like doing action. I like watching action films. So most people are like, what, really? And I was like, yes, I do. And you know, why is it as a stereotype that women don't like action films? I wouldn't like to do an action. I'd probably do it better than most of my male co-stars. But it's again these ideas that I don't know who's decided them, that sort of tend to define us. And we have to constantly keep pushing the envelope and keep changing the story and keep changing the narrative.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to touch briefly on Army of the Dead as well, because obviously that has created slight waves, if you like, as well. I know in a recent interview you said you felt a little bit of discomfort promoting something when India was going through quite a difficult period a few weeks ago. Obviously, that's an ongoing period. I wanted to ask you actually, when it is a difficult time for the country and you are promoting, well, obviously you have to fulfill that professional commitment, but you've also gone ahead and you've done various things for COVID relief efforts in terms of helping people, reaching out. How have you felt this has been important for someone like a well-known person? I know there are so many famous and well-known people who are doing that in India. How important do you think it is to show that kind of humanity in the kind of position that you are in?
So important, not just for anyone in my position, but anyone in any position. I feel like this is such an unprecedented time for us as a human race. And it's when even one part of the world is not safe, the entire world is not safe. That's the way I look at it. And which is why we all have to do our best, whatever it is that you can do, in whichever way. You want to call a friend and check on them and their mental health. You want to just like help someone out because they're out of a job and they probably don't have food to pay for their groceries or their electricity. I mean, all these things are important. And the fundraiser that I also started from that, where we were like, it was horrific to see this happening in your country, at your home with people, your countrymen, and it really sort of pained me. But I was like, I'm not going to sit at home and crib about it and just rant on social media. I have to do something, and I've been familiar with Save the Children, and we reached out and we thought it's best that we put all in our energy and resources into building this 100-bed COVID facility in Delhi. And believe you me, even so many friends from the UK have helped out. They've reached out, they've posted, they have donated, they've opened their hearts out. It's been so heartening to see that, although this pandemic has shown us the worst that is there, but also like the generosity of so many people and their selflessness to connect and to contribute has really moved me. And sometimes without any acknowledgement or any appreciation of the fact that they're doing it. And I also feel I see them as also like people who do it just because they want to help another human being without any kind of acknowledgement. And that's amazing. So yeah, it is a tricky time. There are professional commitments, but I feel an actor is never disconnected from his or her audience. I've always believed I have a direct relationship with my audience, my fans, and I felt like, of course, I'm going to promote, I'm going to go out and talk about my work, but it's important that I put it in a certain context so they know that I am not removed from their pain or what they're going through. I am as moved. I have gone through this. I've had friends and colleagues and people around me, and I've been with them and seen them suffer. And I've tried to help them as much as I could. But it's important that we also get on with life, that we also don't let this COVID defeat our spirit, our lives. We have to work, we have to go out there and do something. And this is my way as an actor, as an artist, to put my work out there. Maybe you can sit at home, watch Army of the Dead or watch Maharani, and maybe it'll just help you forget your worries just for a little bit.
It's quite apt that you ended on that, because I wanted to speak to you actually about mental health. And as obviously you've just said that the shows that you put out, any actor has put out in this time, is a source of entertainment and also a source of maybe just thinking about something else for a little while in this unprecedented time. But in terms of mental health, and because you've been involved in COVID-19 relief efforts, and obviously as an actor you will know how it's affected you, which obviously the audience don't always see when something has affected an actor. How kind of important do you think going forward it is to highlight the mental health challenges that COVID will present to everyone around the world, but particularly in India at this time?
So important. I feel it's affected all of us. I don't know anyone who's not been affected personally, or people around them have not been affected by COVID. And no matter how brave or strong we want to be or try and be, it is going to have a lasting impact. There are already studies around that, you can compare this to any kind of stress post like a World War situation or anything else. If the that could have happened to human beings. So it's unprecedented. Definitely, the idea is to remove the stigma around mental health and to encourage more people not to shy away from seeking it when they need it the most. It definitely is going to be at the forefront of our conversations in the years to come. And the more we talk about it, the more we encourage people to seek out mental health, the better it will be. I mean, just think about it. We're living in times where, I mean, I was talking to someone at Save the Children when we were talking about the fundraiser, and I was like, it's almost like it's unfair on kids. 2 years of their lives are just gone. They haven't gone out to play. They don't go to school. Think of all the friendships and the connections that they're missing out on. Like suddenly you have classes on like video, and where is the human interaction? And it's really awful. And my heart goes out. But it is what it is, and which is why it's so important to have these conversations and to check on each other, all the time, and encourage people if they feel it's really okay to get a therapist and talk about it. It doesn't make you lesser. You don't have to feel stigmatized by it. And I think it's really important that we put this out there and encourage people to seek it.
Thank you very much. That is exactly how I think, even in the UK, we're trying to obviously focus on mental health as well. But I think in India, the conversation seems to be slightly slower, even in the last few years, I can see. So I think it's a really important thing. So thank you for expressing your thoughts on that. I just want to end by asking you about Bell Bottom, which is coming up. You shot during the pandemic for that film. How was that experience?
Well, it was the first film I did during the pandemic, actually. We were lucky, and I mean, thanks to Akshay sir and Pooja Films, who did a fantastic job of pulling it off. And it was not an easy feat, I must say. But I think we all helped, and we all went in with the spirit that, okay, let's make this film. Let's not let this bloody COVID defeat us. So we're gonna do whatever the bloody hell we can to make it happen. And that's the intention with which we approached it. And yeah, I mean, it's done. We finished it entirely in Glasgow during COVID, and yeah, it's up for release whenever theaters are allowed to reopen.
So we definitely look forward to that, especially because it's shot in the UK. Not that I'm biased, but I am a little bit biased. Huma, thank you so much. I'm going to end it there. Thank you so much. And I wish you well with Maharani. As I said, I've seen most of it and love it. You were great in it. And I'm sure other people will equally love it as well. And it's been lovely talking to you.
Darling. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll be chatting with you. Bye.
You too. Take care. Bye.